Hey guys, John B here from PhoneArena. Right now you're watching our in-depth video comparison between the LG Optimus G and the Samsung Galaxy S3. These are two powerhouse Android smartphones going against one another. Galaxy S3 has been reigning supreme atop the Android sphere for quite some time, and soon it's going to have some viable competition with the LG Optimus G with its dreamy spec sheet. So we're going to find out how they compare against one another. We definitely like the designs of both handsets just because they have their specific characteristics that make them stand out. For example, with the LG Optimus G, we like it for its more premium construction and its sturdier feel, thanks to the crystal reflection design, the back cover, complemented by the glass surface on the front and back here. On the other hand, we like the Samsung Galaxy S3 for its more natural feel in the hand. It's also lighter. The choice of materials might not be as premium. We definitely like the softer feel in the hand, and it looks more like a polished stone versus the black slate design of the LG Optimus G, but just your personal choice. If you prefer something that's more premium, you want to take a look at the LG Optimus G. If you want something that's easier to handle and more natural in the hand, then the Galaxy S3 is your choice. Making these two handsets stand out are their super large displays. It's a 4.7-inch HD IPS Plus panel in the LG Optimus G versus the slightly larger 4.8-inch HD Super AMOLED panel of the Galaxy S3. Now on paper, the LG Optimus G has the higher resolution and also slightly higher pixel density, but honestly, it doesn't translate to significantly better details just because with fine text, especially even the web browser, we don't notice much of a difference. The true difference here is just the color production. It depends on which one you prefer more. With the LG Optimus G, it produced the more natural tones, more realistic, versus the overly saturated tones of the Galaxy S3. Both are very pleasing to look at. They both have great viewing angles, but in outdoor conditions, the LG Optimus G's IPS Plus panel proves to be better. We're able to view it in outdoor conditions, whereas the Samsung Galaxy S3 tends to washes out. Not a shocker, both handsets still feature capacitive Android buttons, but they're all spaced far away from one another to reduce presses. It's this usual set of 3 on the LG Optimus G versus the 2 on the Samsung Galaxy S3 with a physical home button. Meanwhile, above their displays, we find their earpieces. They have the LED notification lights. They also have the front-facing cameras. It's a 1.3 megapixel one on the LG Optimus G versus the 1.9 megapixel one in the Galaxy S3, but both have the ability to shoot 720p videos. Interestingly enough, the placement of their physical buttons are identical to one another. We find their power buttons on the right-hand side, while on the left we have their volume controls. Luckily, they're both very pronounced with their buttons and have responsive feels. Again, it's very similar with the top edges of both handsets. We have the 3.5mm headset jacks and their noise cancellation microphones. And finally, in the rear, we have their cameras. It's a 13 megapixel one on the LG Optimus G versus the 8 megapixel snapper in the Galaxy S3. Both have LED flashes and the ability to shoot 1080p high-definition videos. Also worth pointing out, we're using the Sprint versions of both handsets. With the LG Optimus G, there's no access to its battery, but it has 32GB of internal storage. In comparison, the Galaxy S3, we could remove its battery, and on top of that, it has 16GB of internal storage and also micro SD card slot. As we've seen already, LG has made some considerable ground in enhancing its customized Android experience. Now, both handsets are still running Android 4.0 Ice Cream Sandwich, but as we take a look around the home screens here, we could find a lot of similarities. For example, the widgets are nearly identical with their different offerings here. Same thing applies to the notifications panel. We have access to the connectivity features up top. Even the app panels laid out in traditional and grid-like view, so nothing different there. And even the lock screens grant us access to some quick applications directly from there, but just the other set of features that the both customized UIs have to offer that really make them compelling and stand out amongst the crowd out there. For example, on the Galaxy S3, you have the pop-up play feature when you're watching a video. You could move the video into its separate window here, and you could be doing other things while watching the video. With LG's implementation, it's a little bit different. It's their Q-slide function. So basically, what happens when you do that is that it places the video up top, and you have the slider here that could change the transparency, and then you could still do other things while you're doing that. So it's great. But as we take a look at all the listing of features, it just seems like there's more practical things with the Galaxy S3, things that we like also. For example, there's the S-Beam functionality to quickly share a bunch of different multimedia files very quickly. You also have the S-Voice functionality, so you have that personal voice assistant, and you have even things like Buddy Share Shot with the camera, which is really nice for, again, sharing photos. And it just seems like the Samsung Galaxy S3 is just a little bit more polished with the experience. Seeing that both handsets have super large displays, they make for a great typing experience here. We don't find one to be better than the other just because they have spacious layouts with their keyboards. On top of that, they're super responsive in keeping up with our rate of input. On the surface, it's really tough to say which handset performs better, just because with most basic tasks, it's nearly identical. They're very quick and smooth and fluid with their executions, but we do notice just a slightly tighter and more snappy feel with the LG Optimus G, thanks to its quad-core 1.5 GHz Qualcomm Snapdragon S4 processor with 2 GB of RAM versus the 1.5 GHz Qualcomm Snapdragon S4 processor with 2 GB of RAM on the Galaxy S3. But honestly, with most basic tasks, whether it be opening of applications, browsing the web, stuff like that, it's very identical. But again, as we mentioned already, we just feel the snappier movement with the LG Optimus G. And of course, the benchmark results are no comparison. The LG Optimus G just blows it away. We don't find one handset to be better than the other when it comes to the web browsing experience, just because their performances are pretty much similar to one another. Now, that's despite knowing that the LG Optimus G is packing that quad-core processor. Of course, with 4G LTE connectivity, you can expect fast data speeds, but beyond that, as we take a look at their navigational controls, their pinch gestures, kinetic scrolling, they maintain a good amount of responsiveness and fluidities to make the experience very gratifying. And even with flash content, they don't strain with their performance. Checking out their respective music players, we gotta say there's nothing too different about them just because they're very conventional with their presentation and functionality. As far as their audio quality is concerned with their speaker, they're both, again, very similar, strong volume output with barely any distortion. It's such a pleasure watching high-definition videos on both handsets just because they make for a great experience with their large displays and great detail, but it ultimately comes down to what kind of colors you prefer, whether it be the more saturated tones of the Galaxy S3 or the more neutral ones with the LG Optimus G, but either way, they're both wonderful. So even though the LG Optimus G is sporting the higher count 13 megapixel camera, it doesn't necessarily prove to be better with its quality versus the 8 megapixel camera of the Galaxy S3. And honestly, their quality is actually very similar to one another. They produce the same amount of detail, and the color productions are also identical. On top of that, in low lighting conditions, we find the same flaws that we notice on both handsets. They tend to have a little bit issue when it comes to handling dynamic range, but we prefer the LED flash of the Galaxy S3 just because it comes on prior to taking in the shot, so you get better focus. However, when it comes to shooting 1080p high-definition videos, it's the Samsung Galaxy S3 that really stands apart from its rival. So some of the commonalities that they share, they have very smooth video recording, roughly 30 frames per second, on top of that, clear audio recording, but the difference here is just the more crisp-looking details found with the Samsung Galaxy S3, whereas the LG Optimus G tends to look a little bit more soft with its details. On top of that, there's more heavy artifacting going on with the LG Optimus G. Testing out the call quality of both handsets, we favor the Samsung Galaxy S3 on this one just because voices are both clear and distinctive on both ends of the line. With the LG Optimus G, voices tend to have a little bit of hollowness on our end of the line, and on the other end, our callers complain about some muffled tones. Relying on Sprint's 3G EVDO network, we find battery life of both handsets to be very similar to one another. We're able to get by at least a solid day with normal usage on the full charge, whereas with heavier usage, it permits us at least 12 hours. You can't go wrong choosing either handset just because they have a lot to offer here. With the LG Optimus G, we definitely like its quad-core processor, which makes for one snappy performance. On top of that, the improvements found with the custom UI, it really is a lot deeper than previous offerings. But when we take everything into consideration, their performance, their features, and their hardware, it just still seems like the Galaxy S3 has a slight advantage, mainly attributed to its custom UI. The TouchWiz Nature UX seems to be more refined, deeper, comprehensive, and practical at the same time versus the custom UI on the LG Optimus G. Not to mention, it also performs better when it comes to taking photos, videos, and even call quality, so it is the more balanced performer between the two. So if you'd like to learn more about both handsets, guys, you can check out our website, PhoneArena.com. This is John V. Thanks for watching.